Live NFL trivia every Tuesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge and have a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation. There are certain moments in a player's career that wind up defining said player, where their career is at a complete crossroads. If the player performs and does what he's supposed to do, then he gets to keep his job. If the player screws up and chokes with the game on the line, then he's gone and might never play another down in the NFL again. It's just about the most high-pressure situation that a player can face, with both the game and his entire career on the line. And for Rams kicker Frank Corral, he faced this exact situation at the end of the 1980 season. After an awful year and just about the worst possible game by a kicker, it came down to him at the end. Make the kick, and you get to keep your job and play in the postseason. Miss the kick, and that's the end of the road for you. And this is the story of the kick that saved Frank Corral's entire NFL career. Before I talk about the game and the kick itself, we need some context as to just who Frank Corral is, because there was a time period where you'd be hard-pressed to find too many kickers in football that were better than him. Our story begins on a somewhat bizarre note, as in the 1978 NFL Draft, the Rams used their third-round pick on the UCLA kicker. This wasn't just bizarre in the sense that they spent a third-round pick on a specialist, but it was bizarre from the draft standpoint in the sense that he wasn't even the first kicker off the board, as the St. Louis Cardinals spent a first-round pick on kicker Steve Little, which obviously did not work well for them at all. But for the purposes of the Rams, the bizarre part was that their kicking game in 1977 was actually pretty solid. They had rookie kicker Rafael Septien, and he was actually decent. He hit 60% of his field goals. While that's obviously not impressive by today's standards, back in 1977, he ranked right in the middle of the pack amongst all qualified kickers in field goal percentage, placing 14th out of 27. In fact, he ranked 4th in the entire NFC in this category, and only 2 percentage points behind the top kicker in the conference. Yet despite all of that, the Rams spent their third-round pick on Corral. In a heated preseason competition, Corral wound up winning the starting spot, as the Rams released Septien, who went on to sign for the Dallas Cowboys to play a decade with the team as one of the top kickers in football. Corral had huge expectations to live up to. The Rams just cut a pretty good young kicker because of him. So how would he play? Well, at first, it seemed like the Rams absolutely made the right decision, because as a rookie, you could easily make the argument that Corral was the best kicker in the entire league. During the 1978 season, he made 29 field goals, which was the most of any kicker in football. For some perspective, he hit 7 more kicks than second place, which was Pat Leahy of the New York Jets at 22. I made a video about Leahy if you want to check that out by clicking the card in the upper right corner. In the over 40-year history of the Rams at that point, he had made the third most kicks in a single season in franchise history. Along with leading the NFL in this category, he made it to the Pro Bowl. And during this rookie year of his, he hit some really clutch kicks. On opening day against the Philadelphia Eagles, trailing 14-13 in the fourth quarter at a hostile Veterans Stadium environment, he hit the game-winning kick from 46 yards out. Later in the season, in a Week 10 matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with the score tied at 23 apiece in the fourth quarter, Corral hit the game-winning kick from 27 yards out. And 2 weeks later, in Week 12 against the division rival San Francisco 49ers, with the score tied at 28 apiece, Corral hit the game-winning 24-yard kick in the fourth quarter to give the Rams a 31-28 victory. Not only was Corral one of the more accurate kickers in the game, but even though he was young, he was incredibly clutch. The 1978 season was a near-perfect start for Corral. Unfortunately, it would go downhill from there. After an unbelievable rookie campaign where he hit clutch kick after clutch kick, and where he made it to the Pro Bowl, it seemed like Frank Corral was poised to follow that up with a great year in 1979. That did not happen. In fact, whereas Corral was one of the best kickers in 1978, he was one of the worst in 1979. The good news was that on kicks inside of 30 yards, which are the ultimate chip shots, he went 6 for 6. The bad news was that on anything from 30 plus yards, he was just 7 for 19. 2 out of 3 ain't bad when it comes to meatloaf, but when it comes to your odds of missing a kick from 30 plus yards, that's terrible. Over the final 13 games of the season, Corral hit just 42.1% of his kicks. Over the course of the entire season, his accuracy rate of just 52% ranked high for the third worst in all of football amongst all qualified kickers. And he was starting to feel some pressure. He was upset during training camp that the Rams brought in kickers to compete for his job after coming off of a Pro Bowl season, and then voiced his frustration on this later in the year, saying that he doesn't get any respect. As he said, "I'm a part of this team. I put in 118 points last year. It's as simple as that." The good news for Corral was that he made it to the Super Bowl and got to play in the big game for the first time in his career. The bad news was that they seemingly made it in spite of his regular season performance. Although to his credit, he did score all 9 points for the Rams for their NFC Championship victory, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he also went 2 for 2 at Super Bowl 14. So through 2 years, we have a really polarizing player. We have a guy who has shown in 1978 can be one of the best kickers in football, or a guy that has shown in 1979 can be one of the worst. Which version would show up in 1980? If you guessed the bad one, then you'd be right, because Corral was asked to not only be the team's kicker that year, but was also asked to handle punting duties. And while Corral started the season off strong, hitting his first 6 field goal attempts, once we hit the middle of the season, he fell off of a cliff, as over the next 10 games, he went 8 for 19, hitting a mere 42.1% of his kicks. It seemed like the once clutch kicker was starting to lose that gene. In a 3-point loss to the Atlanta Falcons, Corral missed 2 field goals in the fourth quarter, including what would have been the game-tying kick at the end of regulation. Corral missed a kick against the Buffalo Bills in a game that the Rams lost by 3 points in overtime. And his punting was nothing to write home about either. In fact, he frequently had punts that travel less than 20 yards. And it was clear that his kicking was not anything special anymore either, as once again he was in the bottom 5 of the league in field goal percentage. Entering the season finale against the Falcons, his job and his future with the Rams were on thin ice. And that ice was about to get a whole lot thinner. December 21st, 1980, we're at Anaheim Stadium for the final regular season game of the year between the Los Angeles Rams and the Atlanta Falcons. For the Rams, they're already in the postseason, as they have their spot clinched as one of the 2 wildcards. However, this could be a big game for LA. Because they beat the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football the week before, they own the head-to-head tiebreaker over Dallas. So if the Rams win this game and the Cowboys lose their game to the Eagles, then the Rams would host the wildcard game. Any other scenario and the Rams are playing on the road. On the Rams' first drive of the game, they are able to get into Atlanta territory, looking to be the first team to get on the board. With that, Corral lines up for a 47-yard field goal. He misses it to the right. Not an ideal start to the game for him as his struggles from the previous week continue. And they were about to get even worse. While he hit a chip shot field goal from 26 yards later in the first quarter to put the Rams on the board, he would get another shot to give the Rams some points at the end of the first half. This one was from 37 yards out, and this one was shanked wide left. 2 missed kicks for Corral in the first half, as the Falcons led this one 14-3 going into the halftime break. Fortunately for the Rams, they were able to bounce back in the second half. In the third quarter, Los Angeles took their first lead of the day after scoring 2 touchdowns, the last of which came on a 17-yard pass from Vince Ferragamo to Preston Denard. Unfortunately for the Rams, the same about Corral bouncing back could not be said. With the score now tied at 17 apiece, Corral had a chance to win the game from 47 yards out with less than 5 seconds left. His chance to be the hero and send the Rams to the postseason on a winning streak. And the kick gets blocked. That's 3 kicks missed by Corral on this day. Any one of them gets made and the Rams win. Instead, he's the GOAT, and the game is going into overtime. Even though the Rams get the ball to start the OT period off, they're not able to do anything with it, as they go 3 and out and they're forced to punt. Corral's punt is nothing short of atrocious. It travels a mere 13 yards. Not only did Corral possibly cost the Rams the game as a kicker, but now he almost cost his team the game as a punter. There was no way that the Rams were going to roll to the postseason with him manning the position. But despite the good field position, the Falcons are unable to do anything with the ball, and they punt it away. Eventually, later in the overtime period, the Falcons get it back deep in their own territory. There, quarterback Steve Bartkowski gets sacked, loses it, and it gets recovered by Rams defensive back Jeff Delaney. Just like that, the Rams were practically guaranteed to get the win. They sent the field goal unit onto the field immediately on first down, not wanting to take any chances. It was a 23-yard kick for Corral. The message was clear after 3 missed kicks already, and a punt that very nearly cost the Rams the game. Miss this kick, and we'll go with someone else in the postseason because you cannot be trusted. And with that, here is the kick that saved Frank Corral's entire career. Roll the tape.
The snap will be from Dennis Harris. So it's a 23-yard field goal. Bad snap, but he gets it up and sends it through anyway. The snap was on the ground, and he still got it through.
The Rams were victorious, taking a 20-17 and ending their regular season on a high note. While the game meant nothing in the long run, as the Rams still finished as the number 5 seed in the conference since the Cowboys won their season finale against the Eagles, it meant everything to Corral, who was on the verge of losing his job. And after the game, Corral was the center of attention for simultaneously being the hero and the GOAT. There was definitely a sense of relief for Corral, who understood the importance of that kick. He said, "It's been a long, long season. I'm glad I could end the regular season doing something productive." He then added that even though a couple of things went wrong, that the Rams still won the game, so everyone's happy. And perhaps no one was happier than Corral, who stayed on as the team's kicker for their playoff game against the Dallas Cowboys, and then stayed on as the team's kicker in 1981. where he drastically improved, hitting over 65% of his kicks and hitting over 50% of his kicks from 40-plus yards for the first time in his career. While his release from the Rams prior to the start of the 1982 season was rather ugly, as there was a giant feud between him and the coaching staff due to him missing practices, he was able to continue his pro football career in the USFL until 1985. Corral extended his pro football playing career by half a decade on the basis of that kick against the Falcons alone, because if he missed that kick, he was as good as gone. Even though that kick was a chip shot, and should have been a chip shot, that game-winning overtime kick was the kick that wound up saving Frank Corral's pro football career. Be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Monday and Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL Trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JRGator9 and subscribe to 60-Second NFL History on YouTube. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. So you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.